What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new edition of the Chris Stevens Writes YouTube channel. Of course, if you are new to this side of town, my name is Chris Stevens. I'm a writer, sports lover, music nerd, car fan, cultural critic, dating and relationship podcast host. There's a lot of things on this channel that I like to do, and that sometimes I'll have guests on, and you guys have somehow stumbled upon this channel if you're new, and I graciously welcome you by. If you are a returning subscriber or a lurker, I welcome you all back as well. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell to be notified of everything that drops on this channel. And if you're a returner, don't forget to like and comment on the videos, or even if you're new, like and comment on the videos. I talk back. We have good discussions in the comments. So welcome aboard. This is the last episode the last episodes recorded before the most consequential election of our lifetimes. We say that every 4 years, but it's really been that serious since 2016. And I think it's interesting that a lot of people seem to feel like, why is democracy so fleeting if we have to save it every 4 years? That's the point. You have to vote. You have to make your voice be heard. And if voting wasn't important, why are the Republicans trying to do so much stuff in terms of suppressing the vote? It's a fair thing to ask. I don't think it's that hard of a thing to ask, quite honestly. So I did my early vote. I early voted last week. I've voted in every presidential election I can. So I was born in 1981, September of 81. So my first presidential election was, yes, the 2000 presidential election. So your boy has seen some things. I've seen hanging chads. I've seen Supreme Court stuff. I've seen John Kerry get swift voted. I've seen Jesse Jackson crying after Barack Obama won the first time around. I remember Sarah Palin saying that she could see Russia from her house. I remember the nightmare of waking up November 9th, 2016 and realizing, well, actually, I couldn't sleep after discovering that Trump was going to win the election the first time around. The sense of relief, even though Joe Biden had his campaign headquarters less than a block from where I was living at the time, it was still, nice to have that sense of normalcy back in the White House. And hopefully we can retain that sense of normalcy with Kamala Harris winning on Tuesday, hopefully. I mean, a lot of the polls are starting to sway her way now, but the job's not done. To quote the late, great Kobe Bean Bryant, the job's not done. So I'm not one of these people that's going to sit here and say, oh, voting doesn't change anything. Oh, voting doesn't matter. All you got to do is just look at the stuff that Trump and his cronies are trying to put into play. And it doesn't look good for anybody that isn't male, white, or straight. And that's pretty much a lot of the world. I mean, once again, I said last week, that 99% of us is going to grow to probably like 99.9% if Trump has his way, because that 0.1% is just going to hoard all the resources and leave so many of us for worse. So yes, I voted for Kamala Harris, not ashamed to say it. Hopefully I can look back on my vote with pride and a successful vote. I mean, yeah, the early numbers look good, but you just gotta run through the tape. Run through the tape. If you're a Kamala supporter, run through the tape. Take your friends, take your family, whoever. I mean, if you guys have already got that early voting done, salute. But if you gotta wait till Tuesday, take as many people as you can, and don't get out of line. Don't let anybody say, "Oh, the polls are closed. You got to go back home." If you are in line, you have to vote. That is still the law for now. So just want to get that out of the way. And this episode is going to be a hodgepodge of things, because there were a few topics that I wanted to address, two in particular, and one is going to be like a music review built in. And it's not even really going to be a review. It's just going to be a remembrance of an album that I thought was pretty dope, and that the person who recorded it and sung it didn't get enough love because they were signed to an idiot. But more on that later. So, as a Philadelphia 76ers fan, this year is already off to a disaster. This is probably the worst Sixers start they've had since the process began back in 2013, 11 years ago. Joel Embiid isn't playing. Paul George isn't playing. They're both hurt. Embiid's knee probably has not healed all the way, even after having surgery and playing on that same knee in the Olympics, which was not smart, but, things happen. And George hurt himself during the preseason, so we don't know when he'll be back. So the two main guns for the Sixers, and I mean, Tyrese Maxey is the third in that big three, and he's still playing well, but that team without Embiid and George is just not any good. And I'll have to say I haven't watched many games this year, so I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm completely in the know. But Late Saturday night, after another loss, a frustrating loss to the Memphis Grizzlies, who have Ja Morant back, which helps. I mean, if they lost to Memphis without Ja, then it would probably be even more disastrous. But Ja's back and playing extremely well. So that's a game you can toss in the air, obviously, even when Joel and George are playing. But that wasn't the story. The game wasn't the story. After the game, many news reporters, many sports writers reported that Joel Embiid had an encounter, a physical encounter with a known Philadelphia sports columnist who people have hated for the entirety of his time here. And as a journalist, I don't like to talk about other journalists in a negative light because we all in this fight together. I mean, obviously, the right wing hacks and the propaganda machine for anybody, doing nefarious things, I got a lot of smoke for them. But as far as sports writers go, I really tend to stay away from criticizing people in my field. But Marcus Hayes just writes some stuff that is just beyond the pale, quite honestly. And this is what got him into physical trouble with Joel Embiid Saturday night. So this is from his most recent column. If you can't see it on the screen, I will gladly read it for you. Joel Embiid consistently points to the birth of his son Arthur as the major inflection point in his basketball career. He often says that he wants to be great, to leave a legacy for the boy named after his little brother who tragically died in an automobile accident when Embiid was in his first year as a 76er. Well, in order to be great at your job, you first have to show up for work. Embiid has been great at just the opposite. Now in his 11th season, he consistently has been in poor condition. The poor conditioning apparently has seemed to delay his debut this season. Embiid won't play in Wednesday's opener or the next two games. Now, as a journalist, it is your job to critique. It is your job to report. You do those things, but you can do it without attacking a man's family. And the next piece that I'm going to cite gives great context as to why Joel was good and ticked off, and deservedly so. This comes from Kyle Neubeck of PHLY. Kyle Neubeck's one of the best in the business. Probably the best person covering the Sixers since Phil Jackson. God rest his soul. But yes, this is what Kyle had to write. On Friday, many mocked an idea Embiid verbalized that he had done way too much for Philadelphia to take the sort of criticism he had from Hayes. Arthur was a perfect example of what that means in practice. Embiid's younger brothers visited the United States shortly after he was drafted by the Sixers, but the two brothers never got to see one another. Joel on the West Coast post-surgery, and Arthur staying with family on the East Coast. The brothers assumed they'd have a chance to meet up and spend time together soon after, but when Arthur passed away later that year, it had been over 3 years since they had been able to see each other in person. Friendly reminder, Joel Embiid is not from the United States. He is from the African nation of Cameroon. So we don't take into account that a lot of these athletes that come from, different, foreign lands, like the baseball players that come from the Dominican and Puerto Rico and Venezuela and all of those places. Even Shohei Ohtani from Japan. Ichiro coming from Japan. Nikola Jokic coming from Serbia and all of these places. I mean, and Luka Doncic from Croatia, excuse me. These athletes, male and female, mind you, because I don't want to leave anyone out, but these athletes sacrifice a lot to come live the American dream. So what Kyle did there was give great context to why, well, yes, you can't put your hands on a person like that. I mean, apparently Joel only shoved him. Another Sixers reporter originally reported that was a punch, but he ended up deleting that tweet. So maybe it was just a shove, maybe it was a punch. We don't know for sure. But I can say without any uncertainty that Marcus Hayes crossed the line. I mean, that's still a very sore point for a dude who just turned 30, who left his home country at 14, 15 years old to come over here. And, his younger brother that he didn't get a chance to see, because life was lifing, and then he never got to see him again because of an unfortunate accident. Like, that probably still weighs on Joel's mind. And I've been one of Joel Embiid's harshest critics as far as, not being ready when the time is right. And there have been times when Joel Embiid has been great. I mean, he's been an MVP. He had a 70-point game last year, the highest margin by a Sixer player, mind you, because Wilt scored his 70s and 80s and 100s when he was with the Philadelphia Warriors, who of course now are the Golden State Warriors. but that is a Sixer record. Joel Embiid set 70 points. There's no doubt he's one of the best players in basketball, but the fact that this team has not yet even made it to an Eastern Conference Final is a sore point for a lot of fans, and rightfully so. But at the same time, we stay away from people's families as fans, and as reporters, you damn sure stay away from people's families. Like I've been critical of people in pieces that I've written. I don't mention people's siblings or parents or spouses or children. None of that has a damn thing to do with what we are talking about, which is sports. None of that has anything to do with sports. Unless they say that, this is weighing heavy on my mind. I lost my brother. Me and my wife are going through it. My child is sick. My parents are not doing well. If this is something that they tell you and that they give you, clear, what's the word I'm looking for here? If they give you permission to write it, then yeah, sure, go ahead and say, okay, this player so-and-so is frustrated because he's dealing with personal issues, family members not doing well, he may be dealing with some things, within his relationship or all of that. If they say that's okay to write. But you can't talk about a dude who just is rightfully celebrating the birth of Arthur's younger Arthur, like baby Arthur, who's 3 now? So, fatherhood is still fairly new to Joel, and he wants to protect his son, rightfully so. And the son that he named after his brother who left this world in an unfortunate way. So Marcus Hayes is out of his mind. Make no mistake about it. You can criticize the player, and Joel said it. Apparently, Joel said it. You can say what you want about me, but keep my family's name out your mouth. Shout out to Will Smith for bringing that little nugget back to life. Keep people's families out your mouth. It's that simple. Yeah, you can say Embiid, he can't stay under 290 or whatever. Yeah, you can say he does some foolish things on the court with the falling and all of that helps tear his knees up. You can say all of that. But you're talking about a man who named his son his pride and joy after his brother that he never got a chance to, hang out with one final time. You asking for it. You were really asking for it. And as a journalist, yes, the freedom of the press is a thing, but you just can't be all willy-nilly with it. You can't. Because you're just asking for trouble. And Marcus Hayes has written some foolish stuff in the past. You can just go look his byline up on the Philadelphia Inquirer and just be like, and roll your eyes. You roll your eyes too much, it might get him stuck reading what Marcus Hayes has written. And again, I don't criticize journalists and sports writers like that. It's just not something that I do because I wouldn't want somebody making fun of my work. But I know my work is good, so it really doesn't matter to me that much. But Marcus Hayes just crossed the line, and I'm sorry, I can't feel sympathy for him. I can't. Use your common sense. You talking about a man's family. And this cuts deep. This is a dude who left home young. His brother died when they were still both very young. And and the fact that his wife was okay with him naming their son after, it was probably something they discussed at terms, obviously, at will. So, it probably wasn't a doubt that if Joel and his wife had a boy, the boy was going to be named Arthur. So, I'm sorry, man. I ain't got no heartaches to spare for Marcus Hayes, to quote Linda Clifford. I just don't. It's just not in the cards for me. But again, you can write what you want to write. You can say what you want to say, but you got to be prepared to defend it at all times. And Marcus Hayes apparently was not completely ready to defend what he had written. The game is the game. Got to play a little better than that. And on to the next subject, which probably is going to, make some headwaves. It already made some headways. Last week, Megan Thee Stallion debuted her Amazon Prime documentary In Her Own Words, which I watched in full on Friday. And it was an emotional roller coaster, man. We found out so much about Megan, that her mother dying really, anybody losing a parent is tough, but Holly was Megan's everything, man. Not just her mom, but her role model as a rapper, and she was her manager at first. One of my writer buddies, Kiana Fitzgerald, who's really, really good at this music writing thing. She mentioned on Twitter that when she first contacted Megan's outreach, her contacts or whatever, to do an interview, she was doing all the legwork for Megan. apparently Holly was shooting the now famous Megan freestyle and twerk videos. So, she was on the ball, and then that woman died so suddenly. I mean, this is the second time in a row, this second subject. We're talking about somebody that died way too soon, man. And when you lose your everything, like Megan lost her everything, of course it's going to send you into a tailspin. I mean, everybody talked about her being an alcoholic and, loose with it and all of that. I mean, what is loose relatively? We'll talk more about that in a second because there's a clip that I'm going to play, and then I'll talk more about that. But, the documentary as a whole was very enlightening. It was emotional. It was eye-opening, even for someone who considers himself to be a Megan Thee Stallion fan. I wouldn't call myself a hottie because, well, I'm not hot. I'm just a guy. Maybe we're hot boys for Megan. I don't know, but whatever. But yes, watching that documentary was just like, yo, she's been through some things. And one of those things after the shooting by Tory Lanez was an interview with Gayle King. And Gayle asked Megan a question. Someone asked the question. But Megan admitted to she said she gave a different answer to Gayle, but in the documentary, she said something different that I'm going to play for you beautiful folks right now.
Yes, bitch, I lied to Gayle King, bitch. First of all, I didn't know that bitch was even gonna ask me about that shit. Bitch, she's always gonna talk about this shooting. Why'd you ask me about fucking Tory? That's not what this is about. Even if I was, I fucked this nigga like once, maybe twice on a drunk night. Bitch, you kept catching me out of my fucking mind.
Okay, there you have it in her words. When Gayle asked her was she having a sexual relationship with Tory Lanez, she said no. And then, of course, in the documentary, she said, of course I lied. I mean, because it honestly, and Megan's right, it wasn't germane to the discussion. It wasn't about who she was having sex with. It was about a nigga that shot her in the foot. That's what it boils down to. This dude shot her. And I guess that's a generational divide because women of Gayle King's age, they still sort of feel beholden to blaming women for whatever men do to women because they just that was taught to them, which of course is false in every sense of the word. But men can control their own emotions. They should anyway. But I think what ticked people off, because that clip started making the rounds on social media fairly early in the documentary's shelf life, because I mean it just came out Halloween, and here we are November 4th, and people were just like, oh, so now she's lying about who she fucked, free Tory and all of that nonsense. And here's the thing, Megan is not under any obligation to tell you people who she's having sex with or who she's had sex with. Nobody is under any obligation to tell you who they have had sex or who they are having sex with. That is a personal thing. That is a private thing. That is an intimate thing. That is really nobody's business at all. And the funny part, it's not funny, but it's very much a catch-22. A lot of these dudes are pissed off because they've come to the realization that a lot of women don't claim them as sex partners. Yeah, I said it. That's right. A lot of you dudes are on that I don't claim you list. And it makes you mad. It incenses you. It cuts you deep that a woman that you have probably bragged to your friends about smashing will hit you with the Kiki Palmer. I don't know this man. I hate to sound ridiculous, but I don't know this man. If I saw him in public, I wouldn't know a thing. Sorry to this man. That's how a lot of these women treat these dudes today. Fair, unfair, that's what it is. So that's why a lot of people are mad that Megan lied about having sex with Tory Lanez. And she said it herself that this dude kept catching her when she was out of her mind. So let's be clear about this. If you can only get with a woman when she is in distress, when she is inebriated, when she's intoxicated, that does not look good for you at all. And yeah, people can say, oh, well, she should hold her liquor better, or well, she should have stayed away from him. No, he should have stayed away from her, knowing that she was vulnerable, knowing that she was frustrated, sad, lonely, depressed that her mom was gone, and that, people were pulling her in different directions. She was already having to deal with the foolishness of a 40-something-year-old woman married to a sex predator, sending her fans after her at every single turn. So if you can only, reach a woman's, vulnerability through her being depressed, drunk, sad, whatever, not a good look, homeboy. And again, going back to that earlier point, it would kill a lot. Because that's probably why these dudes are flipped out, because they're starting to realize that, again, you can say that, yes, me and this girl, me and this, she let me, and then that woman be like, who? Huh? Never heard of that guy before. He said we did what? That's news to me. And that is pissing a lot of you dudes off. And like, I don't feel sorry for Marcus Hayes. I don't feel sorry for any of y'all, because the way y'all treat women, why would they claim you? That's pretty much what pisses everybody off, and that's probably what's going to lead Kamala Harris to a victory. Is that people have grossly misunderstated the power of a woman coming after her right to choose and keeping it. Whether that's who she chooses to divulge, who she's had sex with, who she chooses to have sex with, and if she chooses to keep a baby by somebody that she doesn't want to have a baby with or doesn't want to have a baby at all. That's her business. So a lot of y'all just gonna have to learn to, live with it. You gotta live with it. It is what it is. I don't make the rules. So, overall, the documentary, I highly recommend you go check it out. Just from the emotional. If you need to kind of sort of let some tears go, that's the documentary for you at this point in time. But if you just want to learn more about Megan, that's a good place to start. A very, very good place to start. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that clip really quickly because I just found that very, very funny that dudes were crashing out. Oh, she lied. Oh, that means she lied about that dude shooting him. Free Tory Lanez. If you're so upset about Tory Lanez being in jail, write that dude a letter and leave us out. Because none of us, the rest of us, really don't give a damn. Sorry to say. Just don't. That's what it is. And to close out this lovely episode, November 4th, 2014, I will never forget it. This was a point in my life where I was a freelance sports reporter. I want to shout out my guy, Andre Smith, who kind of rescued me from the dumps when I was down and out and, needed to start making some money because, I was out of work. And he was working for the local newspaper at the time. He was like, yo, you need to come string with us. String, if you're not familiar from a journalism term, is like freelance work. They go where if an editor gives you a story, you go cover the joint. You write it, you get paid. It's that simple. And I was a stringer for the News Journal for 7 or 8 years. I think it was 7. I think it might have been 8. Whatever it was, I know it was a long time, but I had ended up getting a job in between those times and keeping more stable employment. But those early days, those 2014 days were rough because I was borrowing cars to get to these games. I was just needing. I needed something, and music was one of those things that carried me through. And on November 4th, 2014, probably getting ready to cover a game or coming from a game, I discovered that Teyana Taylor was releasing her first full-length debut album entitled 7, spelled Roman numerically, VII. Where the fuck did I get VV from? VII, which is 7 in Roman numerals. And it still stands as one of the last true albums of a mainstream nature for real humpers. It does. There's so much on that album that you can spark a vibe to. Like it's good chill music, it's good foreplay music, it's good background music for when the foreplay becomes the bam play. Well, not the bam play, or maybe just the play. Please don't hold that shimmy against me, I swear. I'm just having fun. But yeah, 7 was a great album. It didn't get the love it deserved because unfortunately she was signed to Good Music and that idiot Kanye West. And he did not promote that album correctly. He didn't. He absolutely didn't. There was so much about that album. There's Just Different. There's Request. There's Dreams. Dreams was actually co-written with her now ex-husband, Amon Shumpert. Boy, did we find out he was a piece of work. Jesus Christ. And then there's Do Not Disturb with the seemingly uncancelable Chris Brown. So those are 4 songs that you can absolutely. I like Request too, because there's the bridge where she's like, Call me on your porch in nothing but a trench coat. Or maybe you want to see me in your office after school. It's like she's talking about role play. And it's like, whew. I'm still waiting for the trench coat thing to happen, to be quite honest with you. If there is a woman out there who does not mind pulling up to my apartment in a trench coat, heels, perfectly pumps, and what very little underneath, that would be a good time. That's my Christmas wish. To be quite honest with you. I'm sorry. Just had to put that out there. But yes, Seven was a great album that didn't get the run that it deserved because she was on a label full of people. She was on a label run by a dude who literally was losing his mind and has now completely lost his mind. And the last couple projects, just she retired from music because good music handled her stuff so poorly. And it didn't make any sense for them to handle it that poorly because Teyana Taylor is like the quintessential triple threat. She sings, she dances, she acts. She can do it all. I mean, she's a great stylist. I mean, she's worked, with helping other artists get their stuff together. I mean, she is a woefully misunderused resource in the Black culture space. And I hope she ends up getting the flowers that she deserves. And starts with Seven, because Seven was a tremendous album. Like everything about that album is just great from start to finish. I think there might be one skip, and I don't even want to call that a skip. That album 7 was really, really good. And if you haven't checked it out yet, I really think you should. You'll go back and say, where was I when this came out? You got to blame Kanye for that. We can blame Kanye for a lot of things, to be quite honest with you. But yes, start there. Start with 7. And tell me that few of those songs are not going to make it onto your grown and sexy playlist. You can't, because they're going to be great. I know they are staples of my playlist. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Chris Stevens Writes YouTube show. Greatly appreciate your time. As always, contact information will be in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell if you're new so you can be notified of all the new content, that drops on this channel. And don't forget to like and comment on these videos. Like I said, I talk back. We have good conversations in the comments, so feel free to start one with me. I'm always around. So thank y'all for watching. Hopefully on Wednesday, we'll be in a better mood. We'll be in a great mood. Hopefully. Let's hope and pray. So until the next time we speak, which will be later on this week, y'all be good or be good at it.